Talk about Courtney Clenney in that moment as they first see her. She is right there with Christian, the man who she stabbed somehow, either by throwing or stab, whatever happened, that's what the trial will determine. But she seems to be cradling him, telling him to wake up, and is not necessarily cooperating initially with officers as they respond. What are your thoughts about her state of mind in this first moment?
Well, what I think, Vinny, about her state of mind is when I'm watching this footage, I mean, it's obvious that she's someone that's experiencing acute stress. But I think it's important that we distinguish between what we would consider a genuine trauma response, potentially, and also potential manipulation, right? Because when we look at the situation and her not initially listening to the officer's commands, you know, we can look at that as her attempt to control a narrative. But I think what I would see in that situation and the scene that we saw so far is that someone who is acutely aware of the severity of the situation when we're watching her cradling him and not necessarily responding to the police officer. So it's just to me, it's just a matter of if it's a genuine trauma response or is there's potential manipulation where she can control a narrative by explaining in that moment what's happening.
Dr. Janie Lacy, I'll begin with you. Watching and listening to what she is saying and how she's acting, what is it revealing to you?
Well, Vinny, it reveals a lot, and we can break a lot of this down. But, you know, when I'm listening and I'm reviewing what's happening, there's a couple things, right? So there could be some disassociation and shock and her inability to process the reality of the situation, right? Which potentially could be a genuine trauma response. But then as I'm also listening to some of her dialogue, you know, it also can suggest a certain level of awareness of causation. And then if we look at potential manipulation with her garnering sympathy and also potentially deflecting responsibility in some of her dialogue. And as she's talking, as we're watching her distressed and she's covered in his blood and his blood while she's in handcuffs, and I believe she was explaining that she was covered in his blood because she was trying to save him, right? So, you know, potentially claiming the responsibility, but also attempting to save him also shows a contradiction. So potentially, as I'm observing this clip, there's a duality that could appear, and especially her calm sense at some point as she's talking to her dog, but then also this heightened emotional state. But we also know that cases like this involve a lot of impulsive violence followed by immediate regret. So that would be some of my thoughts, Vinny. What I would look at when she's having this dialogue with the officer is almost controlling a narrative. So as she's potentially trying to garner some sympathy and deflect responsibility. So getting him to connect with her in this moment by looking, because we know looking at someone's eyes, you're also connecting with them so that she can be potentially believable if she really understands the severity of the situation and deflecting the potential responsibility. So her trying to connect with him to probably garner some type of sympathy and connection. But then also, as we saw the different escalations, she's yelling and screaming in the chaos, but then also trying to have a conversation and calming her dog down. So there was a certain level of self-awareness to me that would indicate, even in this moments of chaos, that she was aware of. Because this case, as we're looking at this video, is also to me a witness. We're witnessing a classic, I would say, a classic textbook case of domestic violence escalation, Vinny. Right. So all the previous videos of the property damage to this fatal violence, it's a predictable pattern that we recognize in each incident that goes without consequence. It just embodies a further escalation, which is what we're watching in this video right now.
Absolutely.